I'd like to welcome all of you here today on behalf of Mayor Emanuel and Chief Procurement Officer Jamie L. Reed. Today we're going to be talking about the procurement fundamentals, doing business with the City of Chicago. And my name is Julie Krupa. I'm an attorney with the Department of Procurement Services. So we're going to do a brief overview of the city's mission with respect to purchasing. We're going to talk about the laws that regulate our purchasing, some procurement terms. We're going to touch on the WBE requirements, different types of contracting, and also some contract compliance and reporting requirements. So it's a lot of material to cover, and I'm going to move quickly through it, but happy to answer any questions you have at the end, or I can also give you my contact information at the end if you want to get in touch with me. So our mission, DPS, the Department of Procurement Services, is the contracting authority for the City of Chicago, and we procure all goods and services for the city. And we pledge to work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. And integrity, public trust, and the law are our guiding principles. So before we delve into some of our procurement terms, I just wanted to talk about some laws that govern our purchasing for the City of Chicago. On the state level, there's the Illinois Municipal Purchasing Act, which is 6 ILCS 5/8 10-1. And then there's the Chicago Municipal Code, which is Chapter 292 of the Municipal Code. So we have to make sure that all of our procurements comply with both the state law and our local laws. So if there's some procedures in here you're not familiar with, the reason we have those in place is because we're trying to make sure that we're in compliance with all laws. So jumping into the procurement terms, DPS uses some terminology within government procurement that might not be familiar to you. And if you're interested in doing business with the city regularly, it's important to become familiar with these different terms that we use so you understand what we were asking of you in different procurements. And the first thing we have on the slide is we provide a checklist for bidders in every bid package. So what's a bid package? A bid package is basically the solicitation that we're advertising. It's going to tell you all the instructions for how to bid on the project. It's going to tell you exactly what it is that we're procuring, what is it that we want. It's going to tell you when it's due, how you have to submit it, who it needs to go to. All the important information is going to be in the bid package. So it's important to make sure that when you take a bid package and you're interested in bidding on it, you review all the materials and information inside of it. By law, procurements are generally conducted through competitive process. In the competition, it encourages not only best pricing, but the best solutions for the city. Some more terms that we have. This is general contract. It's a written agreement between the city and a vendor for the provision of goods and services. There's a lot of different types of contracts and different forms depending on the type of good or service that we're procuring. We have professional service contracts, we have work service contracts, commodities contracts, and construction contracts, among other. A bid package, as I mentioned, is a set of documents issued by the city to solicit bids for goods or services. An addendum is what the city will issue if we have a change to the solicitation. So if we advertise a bid package and say in the bid package we say we want to buy 12 ladders, and then we realize, oh no, we needed 13 ladders, we would issue an addendum and say we're revising the solicitation to require 13 instead of 12. And an addendum is a formal document we use so that anyone that's interested in bidding on the project now has equal information and they all know that we want 13 instead of 12, so there's no confusion when bids are due. An amendment or modification is something that happens after a contract's awarded, and it's a document that's going to formally change the terms and conditions of the contract. And there's several forms of amendments to contracts. The most commonly known is a change order in construction, and excuse me. Excuse me, and this is all going to occur after a contract's awarded. Some additional terms. So bids. The majority of the city's contracts, as I mentioned, are procured through a competitive process. Bids are used in competitive bidding, which is a low bid, lowest responsive and responsible bidder is awarded the contract. Responsive means that you meet all of the requirements in our solicitation. So if we've asked for 12 red ladders, you're going to bid saying, I'm going to provide you 12 red ladders, not red and blue ladders. Responsible, I know these are very basic examples, but responsible means that you're actually capable of providing the service, means that you have the financial wherewithal, you have the staff needed, you're actually able to perform the services for us. Request for proposal, or RFP, is another type of competitive process. This is typically used to solicit proposals to implement a new project requiring professional services. This is when low price is not the best way to procure a service. So for example, if we have a complex IT system that we need developed, we might not want to just buy the lowest cost IT solution out there. We might really want to have a provider that has a lot of experience with exactly what we need. So in that case, we would do an RFP, and some of the criteria that we would put in the RFP is that we're going to evaluate you based on your experience and the staff and the pricing, or whatever criteria we come up with that we think is important to evaluate proposals. An RFQ, or request for qualifications, is another type of competitive process where, as the name implies, the qualifications of the bidder are the most important factor. On federally funded A&E contracts, RFQs are required, and pricing cannot be considered at all. So for those contracts, it's purely qualifications based, and after we've selected the most qualified vendor, then we get into pricing discussions with them. Now I'm going to jump into discussing MBE, WBE, and DBE participation. So there's different sets of laws and regulations that are governing these different programs. The MBE and WBE programs are city programs, so these are only used on city-funded contracts. Section 292.420 sets forth the MBE, WBE rules for all contracts other than construction, and 292.650 is for construction projects. Historically, some firms and individuals have been excluded from opportunities to do business in the city, and it was very important for the city to develop programs to be able to level the playing field, which is why we have these programs in place. And there's also a federal program, the DBE program, which is 49 CFR Part 26, and CFR is Code of Federal Regulations, and that sets forth all the rules for the DBE program. So if we have a federally funded project, you'll see DBE versus MBE or WBE goals. And MBE, WBE goals need to be met through direct participation, such as forming a joint venture with an MBE, WBE certified firm. You can have a prime contractor be the MBE, WBE firm performing the services for us, or using M and WBE companies as subcontractors. And it's important to keep in mind that you have to be certified by the city or the Cook County through the Reciprocity program. And also to keep in mind that in order to receive credit, you can't just do any work. You have to perform a commercially useful function within the codes that you're certified under. So, commercially useful function, what is that? We, as I mentioned, count expenditures only towards MBE, WBE goals and DBE goals if you're performing commercially useful function. And you perform a commercially useful function when you're actually responsible for a certain portion of the work. You actually perform it, you're managing it, you're supervising it. You're actually involved in the work. You're not just kind of a go-between or passing the work along. You're the one that's going to be performing it. The goals that we set in our contracts cannot be reduced or waived unless you request in writing that those goals be waived. It's very important to us if we set a goal and you've committed to that goal, that you actually follow through with your commitments. When you submit your schedules, Cs and Ds in your contract, you're saying that I promise to give a certain portion of this work to an M or WBE firm. So we want to make sure that those opportunities are actually there for the M and WBE firms. If you are seeking a waiver or reduction of the goals, you have to demonstrate to the satisfaction of the CPO that you've made good faith efforts to meet those goals. So it's not just enough to say I can't make the goal. You have to show us, I reached out to assist agencies, I contacted all these firms, there's no way I can meet this goal. And in that case, we'll make a determination whether or not we can waive or reduce the goals. The Target Market Program is one program that is available for non-construction projects. This provides that the city can select certain types of contracts where MBEs and WBEs or joint ventures with MBEs and WBEs are the exclusive bidders on those projects, so only certified firms can bid on them. And again, this is not for construction, it's only for non-construction projects. So jumping into certification, MBE, WBE, DBE, I've mentioned those, but there's other types of certification. Only MBE, WBE, and DBE certification have to do with goals. But there are other bid incentive programs that we offer where certification as a BEPD and VBE are also important. So what are these? Just to remind everyone, an MBE is a minority-owned business enterprise. WBE is a women-owned business enterprise. A BEPD is a business enterprise owned or operated by individuals with disabilities. DBE is a disadvantaged business enterprise. ACDBE is airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise. And VBE is veteran-owned business enterprise. The ACDBE and DBE are both federal programs. So those are only going to apply if it's a federally funded contract. And with airport, it's only going to apply for airport concessions. Basic eligibility requirements. Our regulations on our website for the construction and non-construction certification programs offer a lot of detail about the actual requirements for these programs, but just generally, you have to have at least 51% or more ownership by an eligible individual, whether that is a minority, a woman, a qualified veteran, or a disabled individual. With respect to veterans, they have to be discharged other than dishonorable discharge. And a unique factor of the BEPD program is that there's two different levels for for-profit corporations. Excuse me. You have to be owned by 51% or more individuals with disabilities. If you're nonprofit, you have to be operated by individuals with disabilities. You have to be serving a function for individuals with disabilities. So it's a little bit different, but there's a recent program, relatively recent program that we've adopted, and we would encourage that if you're eligible, that you apply for certification. And also, just to again note, the City of Chicago does accept Cook County MBE and WBE certification. So if you're already certified with Cook County, you don't need to apply again for certification with us. You're already certified through the Reciprocity program. So another requirement when you're doing business with the city, if you're going to enter into a contract with us, is you'll be required to fill out an economic disclosure statement. And the EDS addresses all of your owners in your company. It's mandatory. And any legal entity which owns 7.5% or more interest, whether direct or indirect, in the applicant firm has to file an EDS. It's an online system, and there's instructions on there that walk you through it. But it's important that if you're trying to enter into a contract with the city, you're going to have to disclose who owns your business. So now I'm going to get into the actual types of procurements that we conduct through DPS. So there's small orders, competitive bids, requests for proposals, RFQs or requests for qualifications, and job order contracts. I know I've mentioned these, but it does not hurt to go over in detail what they are. So first off, small orders. So this is for the procurement of goods and services that are under $100,000. There's no formal bid specifications or public advertisement for this, but it is competitive. We will solicit quotes by telephone, fax, written quote, or it's also posted on DPS's website. MBE/WBE vendors are solicited first, and it's important to keep in mind that MBE/WBE compliance is required for all small orders over $10,000. So there will be goals attached, in other words. Competitive bids is the process I think most people are familiar with, where this is a low bid process. It's a formal solicitation, anything equal to or greater than $100,000. These will be advertised in the Sun-Times newspaper, It's also on our website. We post all of our advertised solicitations in the bid and bond room, which is 103 in City Hall. They'll be posted for 10 to 30 calendar days. By law, it will be no less than 10 days. And there may be a deposit that's required for some bids. Some bids require a pre-bid meeting. So this could involve an inspection of the work. You might go out to a site. For example, if we're asking you to build something for us, you'll typically go out to the site and see it and check it out so you're familiar with the area. Or if you're going to be doing some sort of work within one of our facilities, it might involve a tour of our facilities so you can get an understanding for how our operations work, which can help you with your bid. They're optional, but we do encourage you to attend if we have a pre-bid meeting. We go over all of the requirements for the bidding process in those meetings. We review the specs. We answer any questions and concerns. It's your time to ask questions if you have any. And it may result in an addendum or clarification being issued to answer questions. So, as I defined earlier, an addendum is our formal document that will advertise, that typically will push back the due date of the bid if we issue one, since we're providing additional information to bidders. If there's not a pre-bid meeting, and even if there is a pre-bid meeting, again, we encourage you to very closely look at the bid package and all of the specification and contract documents included within that package. If you have any questions, it's important to contact DPS and the contract administrator who's identified in the bids package regarding those questions. You can't just contact anybody in the city. You have to contact those people who are identified in the solicitation document. And it's also important to keep in mind that often there are time limits with when you can submit questions. The CPO has the discretion to answer questions after that, but if you have questions, send them to the right person and send them in on time so we can get those answered. So it's very important, I know I stress this a lot, but read the entire bid package. There's going to be a lot of documents in there that require you to complete and fill out information, sign certain places, and you have to fill it out exactly as we've instructed, or your bid could be rejected as non-responsive. So fill in all required information. If you have to execute certain documents, execute them. If they need to be notarized, make sure they're notarized. If there are addendum, there's places you have to acknowledge you've received them. Make sure, yes, I acknowledge I've received addendum 1 through 3. It's just very important that you take care of that, so you don't want to have your bid rejected. With respect to submitting your bid, if there is a bid deposit that's required when you submit a bid, you have to make sure it's in the proper form. Cash will not be accepted as a bid deposit. It's usually about 5% of the bid, and it's normally refundable. However, that's not always the case, so make sure you're checking before you're bidding if it's a refundable or non-refundable bid deposit. Excuse me. And one of the most important things, too, with submitting a bid is your bid has to be submitted on time. For competitive bids, if you submit it at 11:01, it's late. You have to submit it on time, on the bid opening date. So when do bid openings occur? They occur right here in the bid and bond room in 103, Monday through Friday, except for major holidays. Bids are all opened and read aloud. The bids are tabulated, and then the bid tabs and documents are reviewed for accuracy and completeness, so we make sure that they are filled out correctly. And then the bid tabs can be viewed on DPS's website. So once the bid tabs are posted, you'll see an apparent low bidder who looks like they are the lowest bidder. That doesn't necessarily mean that that company is going to be awarded the contract, because then we go into the award process. And during the award process, we make a determination regarding whether that apparent low bidder is responsive and responsible. The using department needs to make a recommendation of award. The bids need to be packaged. There's a lengthy routing process to have it executed. There's several different people within the city that need to sign off on contracts before they can be awarded. If there are performance and payment bonds required, we'll request those, and you'll have to submit them within a certain amount of time. And we need to make sure that they're in the accurate amounts. And then eventually the contract is awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder who meets our city specifications. And it can be a time-consuming process, but the reason that we have all these procedures in place is we want to make sure that we're complying with all the laws and regulations and internal policy procedures that we have. So, request for proposals. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is used to solicit proposals to implement a new project, excuse me, requiring professional services. So this is typically used when we don't have in-house experts to work on it or to implement what we need. The RFP will define the project objectives and scope of services, but it doesn't necessarily detail every aspect of implementing the project, because in this instance, you're not just giving us a price, you're going to tell us how am I going to achieve what the city needs. This is my proposal to tell you how I can meet your needs. And this requires a detailed evaluation of proposals by an evaluation committee. Low prices, as I mentioned, is not the only factor for RFPs. An award is made to the highest rated and ranked respondent. For requests for qualifications, this is the qualifications-based one. So what we want are vendors who have a high degree of technical expertise and knowledge in certain disciplines. The city is going to pre-qualify certain companies to build a vendor pool, and then task orders will be issued to the vendor pool to bid on. The task orders are individual projects. So the evaluation selection is purely based on qualifications and technical capabilities. With respect to A&Es, there's no cost proposal. The fee schedule is negotiated later as part of the agreement. And again, this is commonly used for architectural and engineering services. So when I say A&E, that's what I'm referring to, architectural and engineering services. And this is required for federal A&E contracts. Job order contracts are another type of contract that we have, which is commonly referred to as Jock. It's a firm fixed price, competitively bid, indefinite quantity contract that's specifically designed for each department's construction program. So just to break it down a little bit. So Jock is used when a certain department is going to have a set of needs. Like, for example, we know we're going to have roofing. So we can issue a Jock contract for roofing, and then the vendors are going to, instead of bidding on each little project, that Jock pool will bid their a favorable adjustment factor against a price book, because there's a set price book within Jock that everyone works off of, and you're not, sorry, I'm trying not to go too into detail in this, but you base your prices off of that rather than completely creating them on your own. You're basing a factor off of a set price book. So it's basically a way for city to be able to procure construction services on small and mid-sized projects in a more timely manner than going through the entire competitive bidding process. And I'm sorry if I confused everyone about that. And again, it's awarded to the general contractor, offering the most favorable price adjustment factors against the price book. So, for example, work performed during normal hours and work performed during other normal hours, you can have your factors against the prices that are in that book, and that's how we'll make our decision. And the value of the contract, it just depends on the department's needs. So each one is going to be unique. And now I'm going to move on to contract monitoring and compliance, because after you are awarded a contract, there are requirements beyond just performing the work that we've asked for. There's also reporting requirements, there's compliance requirements with respect to meeting MBE-WBE goals. So DPS will monitor the actual utilization of MBE-WBEs or DBEs, depending on the funding of the contract, that have been listed in the compliance plan submitted with your bid. So we actually monitor, are you actually using the vendors that you told us you were? And we also monitor to make sure that you're complying with the Chicago Residency Ordinance and the Equal Employment Opportunity commitments that you committed to in your bid. The Chicago Residency Ordinance, this is 292-330, construction contracts estimated at $100,000 or more, funded by the City of Chicago, 50% of the total work hours have to be performed by actual residents of the City of Chicago. And there's also another requirement that's not on here, 7.5% of the total work hours have to be performed by actual residents of the project area that the work is being performed in. And in the bid package, we will always tell you what the project area is. And these are designed just to make sure that the city residents have opportunities, and that the residents of the area where we're actually having work done for a project built and constructed have an opportunity for those jobs that are created. And equal opportunity employment, oh, sorry guys, my voice is going. Sure. Yeah, this is just for construction over $100,000. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was whether this is just for construction, and yes, it's just for construction contracts that are funded by the City of Chicago and valued at $100,000 or more. So if it's a federal project, this isn't going to apply to you. Equal employment opportunity. So in order to promote equality of opportunity for minority and female personnel on city-funded construction projects, an award criteria determination or canvassing formula is inserted into each contract specification that's estimated at over $100,000 or more. And bidders are invited to propose the minority and female employee utilization goals. So you will tell us what your goals are for minority and female apprentices, laborers. There's different criteria. You'll see it in the bid package that you'll tell us what are you committing to meet. So ways to achieve compliance. With respect to MBE-WBE or DBE goals, you can be, the MBE-WBE or DBE can be the prime. You can form a joint venture with the MBE-WBE or DBE. You can subcontract a portion of the work to one or more MBE-WBEs or DBEs. And in some cases, you can purchase materials that are used in performance, but we prefer direct participation through through either self-performing or using a subcontractor. And apologies for the typo on this slide, but reporting requirements. There are certain reports that you have to give us on a regular basis. You have to submit monthly subcontractor payment certification forms, weekly certified payrolls, and waivers of lien. These are required to help us monitor and track that you're actually committing and providing work to the MBWBs and DBEs that you've certified that you'll, so in your scheduled C's and D's, you commit to using certain MBWBs or DBEs to perform certain work. So these help us make sure that you're actually giving the work to those subcontractors. Sorry about that. So that wraps up all the substantive material that I was going to cover. Just some general information. Our DBS website is a really great source for information if you're interested in learning how to do business with the city. All awarded contracts and modifications are available on our website. All payments made to city vendors are on there. The bid tabs are posted on our website. Weekly bid opportunities, certification initiative information, all of our bid incentives, our programs, certification rules, it's all on the website. There's also a searchable directory of certified firms. So if you are, if you're trying to bid on a project and you need to meet a goal and you're looking for firms, you can go right on there and you can see all of the firms that are certified, what their commodity codes are, what they're able to perform in. So it's a great resource. And that's www.cityofchicago.org/procurement. There's also social media. DPS has a presence there. We have a Facebook and a Twitter we encourage you to follow. We post bid advertisements, addendum, upcoming workshops. There's a lot of information that we present through those channels. So that was what I plan to cover today. We thank you for attending. If you have any questions, I know I went through that material quickly. I'd be happy to answer any.
I'm sorry. Reciprocity, am I saying that right?
Reciprocity, yes.
Yeah, can you explain it a little bit?
Sure. So the City of Chicago and Cook County have a reciprocity program with respect to our MB and WBE programs. And what that means is that we'll honor each other's certifications. So if you are certified with Cook County as an MBE or WBE firm, the City of Chicago will treat that as if we certified you. So you're automatically certified and we'll count that. Same if you are certified with the city and you go to bid on a Cook County project and you're certified as an MBE or WBE, the Cook County will honor your city certification and you'll be considered certified as a Cook County vendor.
That's different from what the last person said.
No, reciprocity with the city and the county is what she said, and that's exactly the same thing. Yes, not with a state. We do not have reciprocity with the state.
Yeah,
No,
so
only Cook County.
Yeah, it's only Cook County and the city. So other agencies have their own programs. So if you want to be certified with the state, that's a separate thing. If you want to be certified with a different state, you have to go to that state. So it's just Cook County and the city that have that reciprocity.
You did go through that very quickly, and I was just wondering, how does the process look if you're not in construction?
If you're not in construction, it's a fairly similar process. The CRO and equal opportunity, those requirements, they're not in there, but the basic structure of how we procure goods and services is the same. So if it's a competitive bid, we'll still advertise it the same. There'll still be, there could be a pre-bid meeting, and there's not always. It could be the same bid deposit. So it's really the same structure of how we do it.
Do they still read all of the bids in the meeting after the bids are submitted?
Yeah, so if it's a competitive bid, all bid tabs, regardless of the type of procurement, those are all read aloud. They're all posted on our website, so all of that information is shared exactly the same, regardless of the type of procurement.
And one more over here.
On the bids, if you're accepted by the county, do you have to pay both fees to the county and the fees to the city?
No, if you're certified with the county and you've already paid your application fee and you're certified, you don't have to then pay the city's fee. You're already considered certified.
Okay, the other question is, how do you address services instead of contracts for construction, such as extermination?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Extermination contracts. My client at one time had extermination contracts with the Civic Center when it was Mayor Daley's center for 22 years, and they lost all the papers, and one was sick and so forth. So we're trying to reinstate that, and that is what I need, that information, in order to try to get over that hurdle.
We can talk offline after, so I can get some more information about what it is you're looking for, so I can direct you to
Thank
the
you
right.
very much.
One more? Any more?
Is your question?
I am a WBE with the Cook County, so I know I'm reciprocal with the city of Chicago. What my problem is I am now the only woman-owned electric sign company. I manufacture and install service signs. I have had my certification since June, and I don't know how to get the word out or to get jobs, because for years and years and years, it was a real big demand, but there wasn't one for so many years. That now that I'm here, it's like everyone forgot that we needed one. And so, what's your suggestion?
We do have a construction summit at a vendor fair. So those are two opportunities where you can actually go and you can meet other WBs, prime contractors, and you can learn about other sister agency opportunities, I believe. Yes. So that's
Okay.
a great opportunity to network and meet people. You should be posted on the directory of certified firms.
Right. So the NAIC codes, is that the main way that people are going to be looking for me? That's what
I would assume if someone is looking for work within a certain type of, they would search by certain codes, and then they would
Okay.
see your firm. Do you have any other suggestions, really, about?
And I have one more question. With the Cook County, there is not a number that's given for your certification.
Okay.
But with Chicago, I guess there is a number, but I went through Cook County to get registered or certified. So I'm certified with Cook County, and I don't have a number to give people. So,
You shouldn't necessarily have a number. You should have a code associated. Like you will be certified within certain codes, and that's
Oh,
typically
okay.
the only number that matters.
okay.
'Cause otherwise, as long as you have your certification documentation from Cook County, then we treat you as a certified firm with the city.
Okay. All right.
Wow, that was good. All right, go ahead and say your goodbyes, and I'll take
Okay. Well, thank you all for attending. I have a couple cards with me if you would like my contact information. I can also give you my email address if I can get it out without coughing. So it's Julie, Julie, .Krupa, KRUPA, the number 2, at cityofchicago.org. Again, that's JULIE .KRUPA2 at cityofchicago.org.